There are further amendments. With the consent of the House, we will withdraw the following amendments. Amendment number 1387, Amendment number 1408, Amendment number 1409, Amendment number 1382, and Amendment number 1384. Hearing no objections, so ordered. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1410. Clerk will read.
On page 6, line
Last
11,
line.
insert 18.51 RCW.
Look at amendment for the 9th. Representative Schmick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Amendment 1410.
It's been moved and seconded that Amendment number 1410 be adopted. Remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment does three things. Hospitals are exempted from paying sales tax on traveling nurses, but other health facilities are not. And also, this would include skilled nursing facilities. Those two areas, they need these traveling nurses to fulfill their staffing requirements so they can give proper care to them. And we squeeze them so much already, especially the skilled nursing facilities. I think that we should give them a break on having to pay sales tax on those nurses. Another thing that this amendment does is that doctors have to continue to get continuing education credits, and oftentimes those are done electronically. I know I would like my doctor to make sure he gets his 50 credits every year so that he's up to speed with the latest and greatest and knowing how to do that, but we tax that. This amendment would allow that training period for the doctors to be exempt. And this amendment does one other item, and that as hospitals, doctors' offices have to update their electronic medical records, they're having to pay sales tax on the updates for that. And it's quite expensive, especially for the smaller private individual practices, because there are a few of those still out there. This provides quite a burden on them and increased overhead. And so for those reasons, I'm asking that we would grant these exemptions for them so they can continue to give good care to the people they serve in their communities. Urge yes.
Are there further remarks? Look at member from the 43rd, Representative Macri.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I'm asking for a no on this amendment this evening. You know, when our tax laws were created, we had basically a goods-based economy here in our state. And of course, things have evolved significantly to where we have more of a service-based economy now. And our tax code should reflect our modern economy, and we should be able to fund the vital services that folks need. I'll also say, Mr. Speaker, that I want to be clear that educational presentations will not be taxed under this bill. So please vote no for this amendment.
Are there further remarks? The member from the 35th, Representative Griffey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please excuse Representative Veslick.
Member excused. Are there further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of amendment number 1410. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. No. The nays have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1412. Clerk will read.
On page 6,
last line.
Answer provided to fares as defined in RCW 15.76.120 and.
The member from the 25th, Representative Jacobson.
I move Amendment 1412.
It has been moved and seconded that amendment number 1412 be adopted. Remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment just exempts the security services that the fairs provide from the retail sales tax, so that the security people will not have to charge them retail sales tax. This could add quite a bit to their expenses. We have a big need for security at our fair, the Washington State Fair, which we still call the Puyallup Fair, and it's a big bill for us. And also at the Grants County Fair recently, there's been shootings, and we need to make sure that we allow our fairs to buy security services and not have them unduly taxed. passed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Urge yes.
Are there further remarks? The good member from the 34th, Representative Fitzgibbon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rising respectfully to ask for a no vote on this amendment for two reasons. One is, Mr. Speaker, I think it would be difficult to administer. It would require county fairs to obtain an exemption certificate, which could only be used for these services, not for the other items on which the sales tax is levied. It would also create a new B&O exemption, in fact, eliminating B&O paid by security firms at these events. And I just don't think that's the direction that we can afford to go right now. So ask you to join me in voting no.
Are there further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of amendment number 1412. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. No. The nays have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1411. Clerk will read.
On page 6, beginning on the
Last line.
Insert approved by the department such as a one-time extraordinary.
The good member from the 4th, Representative Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to move amendment 1411.
It has been moved and seconded that amendment number 1411 be adopted. Remarks. The good member from the 25th, Representative Jacobson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We just did a little switcheroo. So this amendment is to help our struggling retail businesses. We have a variety of things that are being done. Permission to look at my notes?
Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So this removes the imposition of sales and use tax on security. It's a big deal right now. We are having crime problems for our retail. It removes the retail sales and use tax on certain shopping cart platforms and those types of things, and makes a number of technical corrections, one of which is to provide an alternative method of this sort of scheme where we're having businesses pay a one-time, ahead-of-time tax of their retail sales tax that they've collected. And it provides for an alternative method of calculating that so that they can remit their extra tax, because they're going to have to pay 25 payments in a 24-month period because we're trying to balance our budget. So this gives them a little break on that. So just some technical corrections to help our retail businesses. So urge a yes. Thank you.
Are there further remarks? The good member from the 44th, Representative Berg.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I'm asking for a no on this amendment. Thank you to the sponsor for offering it. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm asking for a no because later, as you'll see during tonight's debate, we do have an amendment that actually removes much of the sections that this amendment is referring to. So I'm asking for a no.
Are there further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of amendment number 1411. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. No. The nays have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1406. Clerk will read.
On page 6, beginning
Last
on
line.
Insert advertising does not include direct mail.
The good member from the 44th, Representative Berg.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I move amendment 1406.
It has been moved and seconded that amendment number 1406 be adopted. Remarks.
Mr. Speaker, I'm asking for a yes for this amendment. This is an amendment that actually just clarifies the intent of this bill is not to tax signage, the types of signs that you would see at your county fair, at maybe your local sports arena, the kind of signs that you see in the Jumbotron as you're cheering on your favorite local team. It also clarifies the definition of publishing, so I'm asking for a yes on this amendment.
Are there further remarks? The good member from the 20th, Representative Orcutt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Also rising in support of this amendment, I think it's very important that we take out what would be, I believe, an unintended consequence with the underlying bill. If you go into your local high school gym for a basketball game, or if you go to the baseball field and you see the scoreboard with a corporate logo up there, that's sponsorships to these local teams. And yes, they get a little bit of benefit from the advertising from doing that. But I don't think that's really what the intent of the underlying legislation was. And certainly we don't want every school district, every Little League team to get caught up in a tax like this. I think it's really important that we adopt this amendment. Thank you.
Are there further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of amendment number 1406. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1413. Clerk will read.
On page 9, line 16.
Last line.
Insert groups.
The good member from the 31st, Representative Penner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Amendment 1413, please.
It's been moved and seconded that Amendment number 1413 be adopted. Remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The underlying bill adds sales tax to things like IT support, security, temporary staffing, and advertising. What this amendment does is says that if those services are provided to healthcare facilities like doctors, hospitals, and insurers, that they are exempt from having to pay sales tax on those services. Please adopt the amendment.
Are there further remarks? The good member from the 43rd, Representative Macri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Asking for a no on this amendment. This would be really difficult to administer. It would require the Department of Revenue to figure out how to come up with exemption certificates and for sellers to understand that certain purchasers, but not all, would be exempt from certain kinds of purchases, but not all. I think it would be quite confusing, so asking for a no.
Are there further remarks? Seeing none, the question for the House is adoption of Amendment number 1413. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The nays have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1414. Clerk will read.
On page 9, line 16, insert the building and construction trades.
The good member from the 8th, Representative Connors.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Amendment 1414.
It's been moved and seconded that Amendment number 1414 be adopted. Remarks.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment just exempts retail sales and use tax from services on our construction industry, including but not limited to lumber and timber sales and services for our builders and folks that are building houses in Washington State. We talked about this last night, Mr. Speaker. We're one of the highest states in the nation to build a home in right now, over $300 a square foot average, with our average home prices being over $650,000 in the state of Washington. We're the fourth most expensive state in the nation to actually own a home or purchase a home in. And so this amendment would simply exempt the construction industry in Washington State from this bill, helping making home ownership more affordable and building more affordable in the state of Washington, so encouraging a yes vote.
Are there further remarks? The good member from the 21st, Representative Peterson.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Asking for a no vote on this, and while I deeply appreciate the good representative's concerns, the good representative from the 8th's concerns, and I share those concerns about the cost of construction. One of the things that you and I have voted on in the not too distant past is a good piece of legislation from the good gentleman from the 16th to really do a WISP study about the cost drivers of construction. I think the underlying bill will add some very de minimis costs to the construction of a home in Washington State, but if I am wrong, and I have been known to be wrong on more than one occasion, I think the work that we're doing in this legislature to really dig in and look at the cost drivers behind construction, we'll get that report back very quickly. The timeline on that is quickly. If there are, in fact, significant cost drivers to construction because of this underlying bill, I think we can make adjustments. But I think for now, because of, as others have said, the complexities of trying to figure out who is exempt and who is not exempt, I think that actually will add some issues to some of our construction companies. So for those reasons, I would ask you to support me in voting no on this amendment. Thank you.
Are there further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of Amendment number 1414. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. No. The nays have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1415. Clerk will read.
On page 9.
Last line.
Insert markets.
The good member from the 14th, Representative Manjares.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for adoption Amendment 1415.
It's been moved and seconded that Amendment number 1415 be adopted. Remarks.
May I read?
Please proceed.
So this amendment exempts from the retail sales and use tax all the services added to the definition of retail sales in the bill if the sale is made to any entity involved in the food industry, including but not limited to farmers, restaurants, grocers, wholesalers, truck drivers, and farmers markets. As we know, we have a very high price of food. We don't need to be adding any more to the cost of our groceries. I ask for this adoption.
Are there further remarks? The good member from the 44th, Representative Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm asking for a no on this amendment, Mr. Speaker. This particular bill deals a lot with sales tax as services, particularly on software and software systems, Mr. Speaker. This bill does not add any additional sales tax to food or groceries or farmers markets or any of those things. It's truly about digital automated software and different custom software utilization. But for those specific industries, there are not specific new taxes. That said, this would be an incredibly difficult thing to administer to try and pull those particular entities out of the use of software. Again, de minimis impact on these particular industries because this is a tax on sales of software, sales tax on software as service. So please vote no.
Are there further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of amendment number 1415. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. No. The nays have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1403. Clerk will read.
On page 22,
last line.
Correct the title.
The good member for the 20th, Representative Orcutt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move adoption of Amendment 1403, please.
It has been moved and seconded that amendment number 1403 be adopted. Remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the underlying bill puts a 95% tax on nicotine pouches. Now, in most instances, I wouldn't say that using nicotine pouches was a good thing, with the exception that when somebody is a smoker and they're trying to get off of cigarettes, they want to get away from inhaling the smoke into their lungs. They want to get away from the particulate matter that goes in. They want to get away from all the chemicals that go in. One of the ways that they often do that is to use nicotine pouches to address the nicotine cravings while they stop smoking. So it actually is a way to encourage people and assist people in smoking cessation. Putting a tax at 95% on these is extremely problematic and very expensive for those who are trying to get away from, a pack a day or 2 pack a day habits. So they're trying to look out for their health, and it takes time to do. So I'm really concerned about the tax that would be put on this. In some cases, it could be up to $5 per package. What this amendment does is says, no, we're going to limit it to $1.25. One of the advantages of doing a set amount rather than on a percentage of the value is if you have a good feel for how many of these are going to be sold, it gives you a little more certainty in how much revenue is going to come in. But it also lowers the tax to enable people to afford these so that they can work towards getting off of the harmful effects of cigarette smoking. I encourage your adoption of the amendment.
Are there further remarks? The good member from the 22nd, Representative Partially.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If this was adopted, and I'm not urging this, I'm actually urging no, this would be a lower tax rate than other tobacco-related products. And if we're going to lower the tax rate and not have a parity between these, we need a careful policy worked out. And just for your information, Speaker, in case you were wondering, in the underlying bill, it exempts all FDA products for smoking cessation related to nicotine. So that's preserved in the bill. But in this particular amendment, it is a lower rate than other tobacco products, and we need to think out this policy. So I'm urging a no on this particular one.
Are there further remarks? The good member from the 20th, Representative Orcutt.
Oh, I'm sorry, no.
Are there further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of amendment number 1403. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Division has been called. The Speaker is about to open a roll call machine. The Speaker has opened a roll call machine. Has every member voted who wishes to vote? Does any member wish to change their vote? The Speaker is about to lock the roll call machine. The Speaker has locked the roll call machine. Clerk will take the record.
Mr. Speaker, there are 41 yeas, 47 nays, 1 excused.
The nays have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1404. Clerk will read.
On page 22, line 8.
Last line.
Correct the title.
The amendment from the 20th, Representative Orcutt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move adoption of Amendment 1404.
It has been moved and seconded that amendment number 1404 be adopted. Remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Apologize for jumping up a minute ago. I was jumping up to get moving on this one. Got ahead of the vote on that last amendment. You know, if $1.25 per pack is a little bit low, this is actually not lowering it quite as much. It's $1.85. I would contend too that, you know, if we don't have the policy quite right, we need to look at the policy. Mr. Speaker, I think if we need to look at the policy as was stated in opposition to the previous amendment, we probably should not be including this in the bill at all. But this does take it to a set rate, not quite as low as the rate that I had proposed in the prior amendment. But it does give a little bit of certainty. It doesn't raise it up too far, and it still makes it so that, you know, the people who are trying to get off of cigarettes still have, well, I don't want to call it affordability, but less inaffordability to do it. So if a tax is going to be placed on these things, I don't think it should be the 95% other tobacco products tax, OTP. I think it should be a different rate than that. And as I said, if this is not the right rate, if there's question about what the rate really should be, then this shouldn't be included in this bill whatsoever. So I think this is an appropriate amendment to adopt. Let's set the rate here. If we find out that this is not the right rate, we do have another session that will be coming up next year, and we could adjust it then. But if we're not going to take it out, at least set it at what is deemed to be a reasonable rate, set it there, and look at it again later. Please adopt the amendment.
Other further remarks? The amendment from the 22nd, Representative Parsley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I'm rising in a no vote on this particular amendment. Yes, it is lower than the other tobacco-related products, but this particular product that we're taxing at 95% has never been taxed before. So in the interim, I would recommend that we do work on a policy, as the good member said, but not just on how we should tax these other tobacco-related products, but also potentially the impact of nicotine in our youth and how we're even looking at illicit products being sold in high school through Instagram, or how high school students are doing this, and the health impacts all the way up and down the age scale, because nicotine is not innocent. It's also extremely addictive. I had a worker that 18 years old took until 21, 22 years old to get off these nicotine patches. So yeah, we have a lot of work not only on the tax policy, but on the health policy and how we're going to help the young people not get onto these products. I'm urging a no. Let's leave it where the bill is and let this bill ride for a year, and then we come back with a trailer for it.
Are there further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of amendment number 1404. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. No. Division has been called. The Speaker is about to open the roll call machine. The Speaker is opening the roll call machine. Has every member voted who wishes to vote? Does any member wish to change their vote? The Speaker has locked the roll call machine. The Speaker has locked the roll call machine. Clerk will take the record.
Mr. Speaker, there are 40 yeas, 44 nays, 1 excused.
The nays have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1416. Clerk will read.
On page 30, after line, internal references accordingly.
The good member from the 20th, Representative Orcutt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please adopt, or please move for adoption Amendment 1416.
It has been moved and seconded that amendment number 1416 be adopted. Remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Very simply, what this amendment does is it prohibits the Department of Revenue from levying any penalties or interest or fines if somebody is out of compliance with the provisions of this bill. The reason why I'm offering it is because we've got some products that will now be taxed, some services that will now be taxed, which have not been taxed before. Oftentimes when a new tax is created or something is added in, we find out that there are unintended consequences later, or there's a need for a trailer bill to come and clean up any confusion. Sometimes taxes get paid and we can't do retroactive to reimburse those taxes that were wrongly collected by the Department of Revenue or what were fixed by a subsequent piece of legislation. So this basically says, you know, if somebody is not doing it correctly, just bring them into compliance. Just show them what the tax rate should be. Let it be an educational situation rather than a penalizing situation. Help them become compliant. Don't penalize them because a new piece of policy that they're trying to get accustomed to and they weren't quite certain about got implemented on them. Don't penalize them because they didn't understand when there are, you know, there's a lot of vague terms for some folks, hard for them to understand when it does or doesn't apply to them, especially if there are different things that they're doing, some of which is now taxed, some of which is not. So let's focus on making sure that the tax is collected correctly, but let's not penalize somebody who misinterpreted a new rule, at least for that first year. After that, then it would be appropriate to charge penalties and interest, but not in that first year when they're trying to make those adjustments. Please adopt the amendment.
Are there further remarks? The good member from the 44th, Representative Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to ask for a no vote on this, but Mr. Speaker, I agree with the sponsor of this amendment in the regards that we should definitely work with folks as we introduce any new taxes. Mr. Speaker, I'm asking for a no vote specifically because of how broad this amendment is written. I contacted DOR because I said, you know, there's some good stuff in here, and DOR said because of the way this is written, this would actually apply to anyone paying any sales tax in our state, would get kind of a holiday from penalties and interest, no matter if it was in this bill or any part of our sales tax code. But Mr. Speaker, I also talked with DOR about, well, how does this work? How does this work when we have new taxes coming in, and how are ratepayers educated, and what kind of grace is given? And DOR was very clear that they do a lot of outreach and education. Their goal is not to penalize and have gotcha moments. Their goal is to really do good tax policy and frankly, just enforce the laws that we pass. So within that first year of any new tax, this tax or any other one, there will be a lot of outreach, education, and grace given as folks get used to this new taxation. So, Mr. Speaker, I am asking for a no on this amendment.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of amendment number 1416. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. No. The nays have it. The nays have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1417. Clerk will read.
Beginning on page 2.
Last line.
Correct the title.
The good member from the 20th, Representative Orcutt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move adoption of Amendment 1417.
It has been moved and seconded that amendment number 1417 be adopted. Remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Very simply, this amendment takes some of the areas where this new tax, the new sales tax will be, or the existing sales tax will now be applied where it hasn't been in the past. May I read from the amendment so you can get a clear understanding of what some of these are?
Please proceed.
Thank you. So some of the things that would be removed from the new incidence of tax would be information technology, technical consulting services, information technology training services, and technical support. If anybody ever needed technical support in their life, it's me. I have terrible problems with computers, and I'm sure that, you know, anytime you get software, you can have technical needs. Custom website development services, custom software and customization of pre-written computer software, investigation, security services. Security services will now be taxed. Security at our fairs, security in many of our retailers, that'll all be taxed. My amendment takes this out. So it won't be subject to tax. It won't be an added cost on our retailers or our nonprofit fairs. Security monitoring services, armored car services, temporary staffing services. Many of our small businesses, when they're growing, need those temporary services because they can't afford to hire somebody full-time. So when this tax is applied to temporary staffing services, you make it harder and harder for businesses to grow, especially early on. When they get to where they've got 20 or 30 employees, it's not as hard to add that next person. But when you're at 2 or 5 employees, it's very difficult to add that person. So this is a very big burden on those folks trying to grow. Any service that primarily involves the application of human effort by the seller. Live presentations, that would be taxed in this bill. My amendment takes that out. Advertising services, digital processing services, those are all things, Mr. Speaker, that a lot of our businesses are using, and our small businesses need those things. Adding a tax onto it is going to make it more expensive for our small businesses to do business in the state, and it is just not a good thing. It really is going to be harmful to a lot of small businesses. Please adopt the amendment and exempt them out.
Are there further remarks? The member from the 44th, Representative Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm asking for a no on this amendment. This amendment truly does gut the bill, and it just flies in the face of everything the bill is attempting to accomplish. So I'm asking for a no on this amendment.
Are there further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of amendment number 1417. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. No. The nays have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1405. Clerk will read.
On page 6, line
Last
8,
line.
internal references accordingly.
The amendment from the 44th. Representative Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Trying to find my paperwork here. I move amendment 1405.
It's been moved and seconded that amendment number 1405 be adopted. Remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am asking for adoption of this amendment. This amendment actually will remove some of the services from the underlying bill, some of the technology services and services that we feel just don't belong in this particular bill. I'm asking for a yes on this amendment.
Are there further remarks? The member from the 20th, Representative Orcutt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Also rising in support of this amendment, I have to tell you I'm terribly disappointed at how far this amendment falls short of what I believe is necessary. I mean, you just heard some of the things that I thought should have been pulled out. I think I'd like to say this is a good start, but it's a start. It was really all I can say. I mean, I appreciate that this amendment is here and that they are going to be taken out of the bill so they won't be subject to taxes they're not currently paying. But I can't say it's a good start. I mean, if there were, even a quarter of what was on my list in the previous amendment, I'd say it was a good start. But really, I can only define this amendment as a start. Thank you for the start. Please adopt the amendment. But there is so much more that should be done than what's in this amendment.
Are there further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of amendment number 1405. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1418. Clerk will read.
On page 21,
last line.
Correct any internal references accordingly.
The member from the 2nd, Representative Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move 1418 for adoption.
It's been moved and seconded that amendment number 1418 be adopted. Remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So what this amendment would do is basically remove this section that changes the definition of what tobacco is. We heard some talk today about nicotine pouches and some of their uses. The nicotine pouches that we're discussing in this piece of legislation is being used to help people get off of actual tobacco products. Nicotine salt is the active ingredient. It's the same active ingredient that we see in gums and in patches that can be prescribed. It's also the same ingredient in these pouches that other countries have approved for smoking cessation and tobacco cessation treatments. One of my concerns with this underlying legislation, and part of what this amendment is addressing, is the fact that while there is an exemption for FDA-approved nicotine products, there is a timeline, there is a cutoff. So even though these nicotine pouches are being studied by the FDA with clinical trials, they won't qualify even if they do get approval down the road, because this bill writes into it that the approval from the FDA had to have happened by December 31st, 2024. So right now, I think that we need to adopt this amendment and go back to the drawing board and look at a better way to tax this and phrase this, and make sure that this FDA trial has a chance to actually go through the process, so we don't have to fix this in future legislation. So I urge its adoption.
Are there further remarks? The good member from the 46th, Representative Paulette.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm carried back by this discussion to this body being the first body in the United States to pass regulation of vaping products. And claims were made at that time that they were less harmful. And we saw the explosion of youth addiction to nicotine products, which, not surprisingly, as all the research predicted, led to youth use of one product, leading to addiction, leading to use of tobacco and cigarette smoking, because nicotine is nicotine when you're an addicted person, and nicotine is the most potent addictive item out there in terms of an adolescent brain and the impact on the nicotine receptors in a forming brain. So if we don't tax a product that wasn't around when we created the tax on tobacco products, then we are missing out on taxing and trying to ensure that we increase the price, which reduces youth use and puts the money into available for prevention and cessation. And it's important to capture these products as they are exploding in popularity. A blueberry flavor is not something that is being marketed to attract, or a bubblegum flavor to attract someone who's a current tobacco smoker who's 60 years old. It's to attract youth. And it's important that we adopt the tax and update and modernize our tax code and do the same thing that we did when we had the foresight to tax other tobacco-based nicotine products, and now to tax products that have very, very high and quick nicotine uptake because of those nicotine salts. And I urge rejection of this amendment. Thank you.
Are there further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of amendment number 1418. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. No. The nays have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1402. Clerk will read.
On page 25, beginning on
last line.
On page 30, beginning on line 21, strike all of section 605.
The good member from the 44th, Representative Berg.
I move amendment 1402.
It's been moved and seconded that amendment number 1402 be adopted. Remarks?
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much. I'm asking for a yes on this amendment. This amendment will actually remove the portion of the bill that addresses the prepayment of sales and use tax. I'm asking for a yes.
Are there further remarks? The good member from the 20th, Representative Orcutt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Also rising in support of this amendment, the underlying bill has what's referred to as the 25th month. So you would collect all of the sales tax under a normal schedule, but when you got to the end of the biennium, that first collection period in the next biennium would be pulled forward. And the way they would have to do that is they would have to estimate what their tax collections would be. They'd go off of what their previous year's sales were for June, so June of 2026. Well, big problem there, Mr. Speaker, that's the FIFA World Cup. And we're expecting a lot of people to converge on the state of Washington. So any business that collects sales tax and gets a big boost from the FIFA World Cup would all of a sudden have to pay their July 2027 taxes early and based on that big bump, that big anomaly of collections that they got because of the FIFA World Cup. So it's unfair to ask them to prepay a sales tax, especially a business that is working under streamlined sales tax agreement under the sourcing rules that we have. If they're sending anything out, they don't know where it's going to go to, so they don't even know what the appropriate local sales tax is. So it's very problematic for a number of reasons, because of what it's calculated on, because they would have to prepay, basically end up paying 2 months of sales tax in 1 month, one of that before you even collected it, and before you even knew where it was, what the tax rates were supposed to be. So it really makes sense that this is being removed, and I really do appreciate that it is being removed from the bill. So recommend a yes vote. Thank you.
Are there further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of amendment number 1402. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1383. Clerk will read.
On page 29.
Last line.
Correct any internal references accordingly.
The good member from the 49th, Representative Stonier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move adoption of Amendment 1383.
It has been moved and seconded that amendment number 1383 be adopted. Remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This new cigarette tax was added kind of late in the process over in the other chambers. This is a significant increase, and while I know that I am on the record with concern about the cost of nicotine and cigarettes and tobacco products, especially when it has an impact on accessibility to youth, because I introduced a bill on this subject matter, one referenced by the gentleman from the 20th, that is clear. My concern with this amendment added in the other body is simply that this chamber has not really had an opportunity to explore that level of an increase. And so I'm asking you to vote with me in accepting this amendment so that when we make decisions of this level of significance, we are sure to have a full debate and discussion in our own chamber. So please vote yes on this amendment.
Are there further remarks? The member from the 20th, Representative Orcutt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I really appreciate this amendment. This is one that has been a real concern to me over the years, not just at this point, but there have been times in the past when this has been raised, once by initiative and at least once through legislative action. One of the concerns that I have is when you live in a border community, when you have retailers in a border community, and the tax is much higher in Washington than it is in an adjacent state, you lose a lot of sales. And the problem, you may say, well, so what, we lost a few cigarette sales. We lose a lot more than that, because a lot of times these cigarettes are being sold in convenience stores. And so people are dropping off for chips or for a soda pop or other items that they need to pick up because they forgot it at the grocery store and they're just going to quick pick it up. Now they're not going to pick any of that stuff up at the convenience store, because when they go across the border and pick it up, or for those who are already working in Oregon, they would just pick it up before they came across the border to come home, and they would pick it up in Oregon rather than stopping in their neighborhood store. And that would cost a lot more business than just the cigarette business. All the ancillary would also be taken away. And we're right now, Oregon is 31 cents higher than we are. This would put us another $2 higher. So it would be $1.69 more per pack. The comparison with Idaho, they're 57 cents. With gas prices over there and Cigarette tax is so much lower over there. There's a lot of loss of business over to Idaho. So I think it's really important that we adopt this amendment, stop the leakage. The other thing that I hear from my convenience stores is when we raise tax on cigarettes, it doesn't stop smoking. It doesn't do any of that. It just increases the amount of theft from their stores. That's the reality that they're facing. So taking this amendment, taking this added tax out of the bill is a good thing to do. Recommend a yes vote. Thank you.
Other further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of amendment number 1383. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. There are further amendments. Amendment number 1419. Clerk will read.
On page 30, beginning
last line.
Internal references accordingly and correct the title.
The good member from the 19th, Representative Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to move Amendment 1419 for adoption.
It has been moved and seconded that Amendment number 1419 be adopted. Remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment removes Section 602 from the underlying bill. 602. And it's not even the last section, Mr. Speaker. This is an important amendment, Mr. Speaker, because, well, any proposal with more than 602 sections cannot be necessary to any legitimate function of government. Yet that's what Section 602 says. It says that this underlying proposal, a grab bag of new taxes spread around a sort of motley collection of activities that we frown on, is suddenly urgent and necessary to the functions of government. Mr. Speaker, I believe that is simply not so. So let's remove this section and acknowledge that an underlying bill which raises the taxes on tobacco cessation products, but drops the tax on cigarettes, is putting forward a perverse public policy. We've heard testimony on this floor that smoking cessation products are important. We just can't get our hands around how to make them less taxed. Yet, the tax on cigarettes, the main thing we're trying to cessate in cessation, should have no higher sales tax. Mr. Speaker, it doesn't make sense. This proposal may be a convenient tax grab, but it is surely not necessary. In the interest of clarity, in the interest of making a 30-page, 605-section proposal just a little tighter, and in the interest of truth, vote yes to remove Section 602.
Are there further remarks? The good member from the 22nd, Representative Parsley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I pondered earlier this evening on a different bill the term necessity. And I explained what we learned in the freshman orientation about this budget being unlike anything they've seen since 2010. I'm going to use some numbers here because I think the impact is here. We are seeing between $16 and $18 billion deficit. To close that down to a balanced budget, all cuts, I've seen what that looks like. We'll be harming how we're funding Medicaid, which over 30% of our state uses. We'll be harming our constitutional mandate of schools. We will not be honoring the good bargain contracts of state employees. We'll be looking at not being able to give them a cost of living raise, cutting their health care, furloughing. This is not how we run our state. Necessity? Yes. We need this revenue to be able to balance this budget. So yeah, we are in a necessary moment in our budget. So vote no, Mr. Speaker.
Are there further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is adoption of amendment number 1419. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. No. The nays have it. The amendment is not adopted. There are no further amendments. With the consent of the House, the rules will be suspended and engrossed. Substitute Senate Bill 5814, as amended by the House, is advanced to third reading. Hearing no objection, so ordered. Engrossed. Substitute Senate Bill 5814, as amended by the House, on third reading and final passage. Remarks. The good member from the 44th, Representative Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm asking for a yes on this bill tonight. Mr. Speaker, we know in the Finance Committee that the work that we do there is to fund the good things in this state. Things like our public schools and universities, things like our justice system, things like protecting our clean air and clean water, things like health care and services for seniors. Mr. Speaker, I've heard from families across the state. I've visited families across the state, but I've heard from some specifically about their needs. I've heard from a mom in Walla Walla who is working 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. And this budget speaks to her needs. This particular bill is a way for us to fairly modernize our tax code so moms like her don't need to have 3 jobs where people in her community have 3 houses. It's simply unfair, Mr. Speaker. She's living on credit card debt just to put food on her family's table. It'd be wrong to ask someone like her, a family like hers, to shoulder the burden of additional taxes put directly on them. Mr. Speaker, this bill helps modernize our outdated tax code. As you know, Mr. Speaker, our tax code is reliant on not all of the legs of the stool of tax systems. So we have to rely on property tax, sales tax, and business and occupation tax to fund our state. As a result, we are the 49th most regressive state in taxation. And so families like the one I mentioned in Walla Walla do end up shouldering an unfair burden. A bill like this starts to tax services. Mr. Speaker, we are more of a service economy in this state now more than ever. We used to be very ag and farming based. Manufacturing is still a huge part of our community. But services, technology, that is now the most of our economy. And Mr. Speaker, what this bill does is start to modernize our tax code so that we can tax the things that folks actually are using in our state. So this bill, Mr. Speaker, is important to say yes to modernize our tax code and not place a burden on working families. Say yes.
Are there further remarks? The member from the 20th, Representative Orcutt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rising in opposition to this proposal today. You know, the gentlelady from the 44th is right. That family in Walla Walla shouldn't be taxed. They shouldn't. But they will be with this bill. What? They're going to be taxed? I don't see anything in here that says they're going to be taxed. Talked about health care. We need to fund health care in our budget, so we need to do this tax. But Mr. Speaker, that's one of the places right there where that family is going to get hurt. Because some of the services that health care utilize are now going to be taxed. And that is going to drive up the cost of health care, which is going to drive up the demand on our budget later on. And it's going to come down in higher costs, whether it be insurance costs or direct costs to go see a doctor. That's going to come out of everyone's pocket, including the low income. And Mr. Speaker, we also heard that this budget year is unlike anything since 2010. Well, I was here in 2010. I would basically say that this isn't even like 2010. Now, the deficits that we're hearing about compare probably pretty well with 2010. But you know the difference between now and 2010? In 2010, our revenues flattened and actually went down. And that's why we had a deficit, or part of the reason why we had a deficit. Spending was a problem then too. But here, Mr. Speaker, the difference here is our revenues haven't flattened. They aren't going down. they're projected to still go up at 3 to 4%. This is quite different than 2010. And it's quite unnecessarily different than 2010. This could have been warded off. We heard about the emergency clause, that there's an emergency. No, emergency was about unforeseen. We saw this coming. Spending more than what was coming in, we knew that couldn't be sustained. It's not an emergency. It's a mistake. It is the wrong way to write a budget. The budget's written, and now you figure out how much you're going to, or how you're going to pay for it. We should take a look at what we've got and then budget based on what we've got, not budget and then figure out how to pay for it. This is the wrong approach. Please vote no.
Are there further remarks? The good member from the 7th, Representative Engel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a lot of reasons that I have concerns with this bill. The top of my mind right now is how it will impact our health care services. I've heard from a lot of my hospitals from all across the district concerned about various tax proposals, but this is the bill that they've referenced the most. And just this afternoon, I had a conversation with the CEO of the Newport Hospital, Kim Manus. Pend Oreille County is a relatively large geographically, but extremely rural county on the Idaho border on the east side of my district. I think there's about 15,000 people in the county and 2,200 people in the largest city where the hospital is located. And they face a lot of challenges because it's right on the Idaho border. And they're required to provide charity care for no cost, up to 300% of the federal poverty level, so they get a lot of people coming in from Idaho and taking advantage of that. It puts a strain on the hospital system. And just furthermore, the fact that most of their patients are on Medicaid, and there's just a lot of challenges trying to run a small hospital in Washington State, probably anywhere in the country. But one of the things that she said is that they have about a $2 million a year cost for the electronic medical records that they're required to carry. And adding sales tax to that is going to be equivalent to about 2 healthcare positions in that small hospital, which is going to be a challenge. And so I have concerns with lots of things in the bill and how it will impact healthcare. And for that reason, I would encourage you to vote no with me today.
Are there further remarks? Representative Defoe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please vote no on this bill. This bill raises sales taxes on billions of dollar level, Mr. Speaker. That's not acceptable. There's no budget deficit in this state, Mr. Speaker. That's fake news. We can spend whatever we want in this legislature, but we have to match it with taxes. So if we put out a proposal that says this is how much the budget is, then that's the taxes that we raise. If we put out a budget that says we don't need that many taxes, then we don't need that many taxes. These are all choices that we make here in the legislature, Mr. Speaker. This bill will increase sales taxes at a time when our state budget has doubled by over $35 billion in the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, family budgets haven't doubled in our state. Business income, and most businesses, hasn't doubled in this state. And yet our tax burden continues to multiply exponentially. Mr. Speaker, we've got to stop taxing the people of Washington State over and over and over and over again. And contrary to what the good, gentle lady from the 44 said, this is a highly regressive tax. Sales taxes are regressive because if you make a lot of money, you pay the same amount as you would if you make a little bit of money, and that little bit of money is the tax will be a much higher percentage of your overall income. So this is going to hurt the poorest families in our state the most. It will hurt working class families who don't have high incomes when they go to pay the same sales tax that a wealthy person pays on the same item or the same service. It's a really bad idea, Mr. Speaker. It's a lot of money that the state of Washington will be taking out of the pockets of almost every single Washingtonian at a time when we have not a tax problem. Well, we do have a tax problem. We don't have an income problem. We have a spending problem, and it's a very big one. Let's reverse course. Let's let the people keep their money, especially the poorest in our state, by voting no on this bill.
Are there further remarks? The good member from the 30th, Representative Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to be voting yes tonight to keep this legislation moving forward, Mr. Speaker, but I want to share a particular concern that I have with this bill, particularly regarding the tobacco and nicotine policy that we've just discussed on this floor, Mr. Speaker. Because as others have said, we need a very real, very coordinated policy. We need a policy that addresses the differential between tobacco and nicotine. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, we need a policy that puts us on a path to prevention. I appreciate the good chair from the 44th highlighting that finance wasn't the right place to get to that policy solution, Mr. Speaker. But as you know, this is very personal for me, both as a mom of 2 young kids and as a daughter. Mr. Speaker, as you know, my mom started smoking menthol cigarettes at the age of 9. 4 years ago yesterday, I flew to Minot, North Dakota to sit with my family as my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer and passed away 10 days later. She spent most of her life smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day. Mr. Speaker, I would argue that my mom died far too soon. And I know that there are others in this body just like me, the gentlelady from the 37th who is a grandma and has committed to partnering with me, the freshman member from the 22nd who has been a fierce advocate on this policy, the good lady from the 39th who is committed to working with me over the interim, Mr. Speaker, moms, aunties, grandparents, who know that our kids are getting hooked too soon on these products. Mr. Speaker, I'm committed to ensuring that we keep coming back to this body, to this work, to this policy, to make sure that while we're raising taxes on tobacco and nicotine, that we focus on getting to policy that puts us on a path to prevention, Mr. Speaker. And while I'm disappointed that this bill didn't get there, what I am voting for tonight, Mr. Speaker, is all of the other good work that puts our kids, our families, and our communities first in our budget. And I want to ask you to join me in voting yes, Mr. Speaker.
Are there further remarks? The good member from the 25th, Representative Jacobson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Permission to read the title?
Please proceed.
Thank you. This is an act relating to funding public schools, health care, social services, and other programs and services to benefit Washingtonians by modifying the application and administration of certain excise taxes. And the reason I read that at this late hour, Mr. Speaker, is that we are being presented with a choice, and in finance and in other bills that we're dealing with, we're given this choice between funding essential services and, we have to raise taxes to do it. And that's what we're told. That's the premise that we're given. And Mr. Speaker, I would again urge us to realize that our budget has grown. In the last 10 years, it's doubled. Our budget has grown far faster than inflation, far faster than the 14% population growth that occurred during that time, far faster than it should have. Our spending has grown too quickly, and as was pointed out by the good member from the 20th, our revenues are still increasing. It is a fiction, Mr. Speaker, that we have a budget hole that we can't get our way out of reasonably without increasing taxes. We can, and we have the Save Washington program from the body over across the rotunda that did propose a budget that did not raise taxes and still funded essential services. So, Mr. Speaker, we have this particular tax bill, and in this tax bill, it looks like we're harming health care providers by taxing them further, even though their margins are so very low, and many of them are losing money right now. And it looks like we're harming, in this proposal, our retail folks who have proposed some changes that would help them. So, let's not do this. If we have to go to a special session, let's do that. Let's take a look. I beg of everyone, Mr. Speaker, you and I, to go back and take a look at what we're doing here. This reckless raising of taxes is going to harm businesses, it's going to harm Washingtonians, and Mr. Speaker, we shouldn't do it. So we should go back to the drawing board and we should vote no on this particular set of taxes. Thank you.
Are there further remarks? The good member from 26, Representative Caldier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So this is now my 11th year. And I think back to many of the things that I've been told over the years. And one of our jobs as legislators is to try to figure out where the truth lies. Because the thing is that people want to influence our vote. And over the years, I've had a number of people who've told me different things in hopes that I would vote a certain way, even my own leadership. And I will tell you that right now, our budget, our deficit in the budget, I don't care what's being told to the freshmen. It is not a necessity right now.
Respectfully to the member, please speak directly to the policy. Please proceed.
My apologies, Mr. Speaker, because the policy is that we are raising taxes to supposedly pay for essential services. However, in our operating budget, we are looking at closing Rainier School. We're looking at cutting Medicaid for women who just gave birth. We're looking at cutting funding for the Age Blind and Disabled program. We're not taking care of the people who truly need it. But yet somehow we've managed to grow our budget an additional 8%. Like, there is so much fluff in the budget. I'm sorry, but there's a reason as to why we only get 24 hours to view it. We don't get much time. That's a huge budget. And every line item, if it would be so helpful to us if we saw how many people that number actually helped. Because what we see is we see a line item. We don't get to know all the details with that line item. And if it were me, Mr. Speaker, and I had the gavel, and I ran the place, you know what I would have done with this budget? I would have said, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I want each and every single one.
The member respectfully is not talking directly to the policy. Are there further remarks? The good member from the 19th, Representative Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a bad policy. Please vote no. Mr. Speaker, you should vote no on this bill because it reeks of desperation. And desperation does not equal necessity. Mr. Speaker, you've heard it mentioned glancingly, but I think we need to put a fine point on it. What this proposal embodies is a flaw in our tax policy and, by extension, our budget policies in this state. We set our budgets first, and then we desperately look for the money to cover the expenses. That's what this proposal is. That's why structurally it doesn't make a lot of sense. That's why it's a patchwork of bits and pieces here and there. That's why we cut the tax on cigarettes, but are keeping the tax increase on the stuff that gets you off of cigarettes. This proposal doesn't make sense, Mr. Speaker, and it doesn't make sense because it's been made in a desperate cash grab move to jack up state taxes. This is not good public policy. When we look at excise taxes, we have to be very judicious. Some parts of this patchwork mishmash increase the excise taxes on services, particularly tech-related services, that are very ephemeral. We may chase them out of the state or chase them into other jurisdictions or chase them into cyberspace, just as we chased off Bezos and others. Mr. Speaker, this is not good, well-reasoned policy. It's scared. It's desperate. It's not the way to set equitable tax policy. We talk about our regressive tax policy in the state. I think the reason we have a regressive tax policy in the state, Mr. Speaker, is we make our tax policy decisions out of fear. That's not the right way to do it. Vote no on this proposal. Excise taxes are almost as erratic as capital gains tax, which is not an excise tax, Mr. Speaker, it's an income tax. Please vote no on this bill.
Other further remarks? The member from the 25th, Representative Jacobson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I have a bit of time left, I would love to say that since the title tells us that we're funding public schools, healthcare, social services with these extra taxes, that it is fair to look at what's in our budget and how we could make our current budget work without tax increases. And so I would just put that in there. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there further remarks? Seeing none, the question before the House is final passage of engrossed substitute Senate Bill 5814 as amended by the House. The Speaker is about to start the roll call machine. The Speaker has started the roll call machine. Has every member voted? Representative Birnbaum, Representative Levitt, Representative Mena, Representative Nance, Representative Paul, Representative Simmons. How do you vote? Representative Paul. Does any member wish to change their vote? The Speaker about to lock. Does any member wish to change their vote? The Speaker is about to lock the roll call machine. The Speaker's locked the roll call machine. Clerk will take the record.
Mr. Speaker, there are 50 yeas, 47 nays, 1 excused.
Having received a constitutional majority, engrossed substitute Senate Bill 5814 as amended by the House is declared passed. With the consent of the House will now adjourn until 9:30 a.m. Thursday, April 24th at 102nd legislative day. Hearing no objection, so ordered. The House is now adjourned until 9:30 a.m. Thursday, April 24th.